Do you have a Google Android phone or other Android device? Did you know that Google just agreed to pay $1.4 billion for illegally tracking your face through biometrics and your voice? Yeah, welcome back into the channel, you guys. And last week I covered the story about Apple and detecting what you are saying and listening in on your conversations, whether you have an iPhone or an Apple Watch or a MacBook or iPad or TV or any of that stuff, and that they agreed to pay a ton of money, $93 million or $95 million to people if you had devices that they were listening in on. And this week, which actually was settled a couple weeks ago, Google, we're not going to be anti-Apple on this channel. We're going to be anti-every big tech that's listening in to us. Google, who, of course, if you have an Android phone or Android device, a Samsung tablet, you know what I'm talking about, has agreed to pay $1.4 billion for illegally tracking your biometrical, your facial recognition, and your voice. This one out of Texas. The Texas Attorney General actually sued Google in 2022. It is just now, 3 years later, finishing up to where they have agreed to pay $1.4 billion to settle the two privacy lawsuits, one about the face and one about the voice recognition. This is crazy because we use voice recognition and we use our facial recognition to access these apps, and they are being accused of basically using that facial recognition for other nefarious ways, like paying for advertising. They're selling your face to advertisers who can recognize you and sell you ads, or people that are coming to your door through some of their cameras. You know, Google has cameras that they actually can detect who's coming to your door and tell you who it is without letting the person know that they are being detected and telling the person inside who you are. That's actually against privacy laws, and that's why they were sued. So let me tell you about it. This was by Trip Mickle over at the New York Times. So Google agreeing, of course, to pay that $1.4 billion to the state of Texas on Friday to settle two lawsuits accusing it of violating the privacy of state residents by tracking their locations and searches, as well as collecting their facial recognition information. Now, this money going to the state of Texas does not mean that anybody that was violated is going to get any penny of this. The state of Texas is getting it, which is bananaramas, right? And then how many other states did Google do this in? I guarantee you a lot, if not all of them. The state attorney general who brought that lawsuit, his name is Ken Paxton, he secured the statement under 2022 under Texas laws related to data privacy and deceptive trade practices. Less than a year ago, he reached the $1.4 billion settlement with Meta, who's the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, over allegations it had illegally tagged users' faces on its site. So he also sued Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. Now he sued Google. This guy's on a roll. He's collecting money left and right. This will bring his total to $2.8 billion in just a couple of years. What a man, Texas's Attorney General, good for him, right? Google's settlement is the latest setback for the tech giant. Over the past 2 years, Google has lost a string of antitrust cases after being found to have a monopoly over its App Store, search engine, and advertising technology. It spent the last 3 weeks in the search case trying to fend off a U.S. government request to break up its business. There's been a lot of talk about Meta, Facebook, about Google, about all these monopolies, even back in the day when Microsoft was forced to break up. Big tech is not above the law, Mr. Paxton said. Jose Castaneda is a Google spokesman who said the company had already changed its product policies and that they were settling a raft of old claims, many of which had already been resolved elsewhere. Privacy issues have become a major source of tension between tech giants and regulators in recent years. We know about this, about listening in. Last night, I was recording my podcast. Shameless plug, if you haven't checked out our podcast, Never Offended, we have 3 episodes. The 4th episode will be released by tomorrow. So make sure to go check that out in the link below and subscribe to it and watch our podcast. Watch the other 3 episodes so you're ready for episode 4. But while we were recording that podcast last night, before we got on, before we hit the record button, we had my TV on. We recorded actually in my living room last night, not in my studio. And we were talking about some conspiracy theories and different things and about mass pew-pews. We're having an off-cuff discussion. We turned off the TV. We turned off everything to prep for the podcast recording, so there was no volume or any of that. And we took a break about halfway through the podcast, and I turned the TV on. I wanted to check something, and up came the recommendations on Netflix, which is what I had on, that said the Columbine High School, pew-pew. And I'm like, we were just talking about that before. How did the TV know? It's listening, guys. Everything is listening to you. Your TV is listening. This camera is listening to me. My phone is listening to me. My MacBook is listening to me. Everything is listening to me. The only thing not listening to me are my dogs. Shocker, big shocker. But they're all listening. So Let's go into this again. In the absence of a federal privacy law, states such as Texas and Washington have passed laws to curb the collection of facial, voice, and other biometric data. There is no federal privacy law, believe it or not. They are in the works, and there are some laws, but they don't cover this as a mass. So that's pretty shocking that the federal government hasn't passed federally, approved nationwide privacy laws. That's nuts. And as long as they don't, these companies are going to keep doing it, right? Google and Meta have been the highest profile companies challenged under those laws. Texas law called the Capture or Use of Biometric Identifiers requires companies to ask permission before using features like facial or voice recognition technologies, like on an iPhone or an Android. Now, more recently, you got to go in and approve those Face IDs. Like if you want your Bank of America app to open with your facial recognition, you have to approve all that. You guys know what I'm talking about. Most of you do anyways. And so the law allows the state to impose damages of $25,000 per violation. That's steep because if they're violating thousands or millions of people, it could be a lot of money. Google, the lawsuit filed under that law focused on the Google Photos app, which allowed people to search for photos of a particular person. So if your photos, like you have an Android phone and you have photos through Google or through your Gmail or through Google Photos, other people could search for you. Maybe they found a photo of you from somewhere else, they drop it in there and it finds all the photos of you. Pretty scary, right? Especially if you have kids. This is why a lot of social media influencers and a lot of even everyday parents, when they post their kids on social media or Google or whatever, they put an emoji over their face. It's really not a bad idea if you're going to post your kids, or don't post them at all. I know you want to post graduation pictures and pre-K and kids at the park or on a cruise, but be kind of cognizant of that, right? Other people could see this. Google's Nest camera, that's their camera for the front door, which could send alerts when it recognized a visitor at a door, and Google Assistant, a virtual assistant that could learn up to 6 user voices and answer their questions. Mr. Paxton filed a separate lawsuit that accused Google of misleading Texans by tracking their personal location data, even after they thought they had disabled that feature. So you can go into your phone, you can do it on iPhone as well, and you can turn off your recent locations or your tracking. You can make yourself private. You can just go to settings, you can go to location settings, and you can turn all that off. It's right under one of these settings, privacy and security, and then location services right there. And when you go to location services, you can actually turn off what apps you want to track you or not track you, or under system services, you can turn that off. And Google has the same options. And they were basically told that even though they turned it off, their phone was still tracking where they were. He added a complaint to the suit alleging that Google's private browsing setting, which it called incognito mode, if you've ever used Google Chrome, that's private browsing, wasn't actually private. Those cases were brought under the Texas Deceptive Trade Practices Act. So even though you thought you were privately browsing, that no one could track it, Google can still track it. Of course they can. Of course they can see where your phone is, even if you turn that location off. The only thing that's going to stop if you turn your location off is maybe the owners of that app. Like if you turn off the Bank of America app from tracking you because you don't want to see local ATMs, maybe BOA can't see where you're at. But Google sure can, and Apple sure can see where you are. I'm not going to be able to remember where I was. I can't go back and look through the history if I turn it off because it's not going to track me. But somewhere, Google, Android, Alphabet is their company, and Meta, Facebook, or Apple rather, is going to be able to see exactly where you went, who you were with, what you were doing, and where you checked in at, even if you don't check in and even if you turn it off. So these companies are listening, guys. They know what we're up to. They know what we're doing. And the reason that they want to know where you are and what you're doing and who you're talking to and what you're talking about is so they can advertise, so they can sell ad space to people that want to target you. If they see that I go to a pizza shop every Monday and Wednesday, and I keep location tracking to the pizza shops Monday and Wednesday, they want to sell me pizza. They want to sell me Uber Eats, pizza, delivery. They want to sell this ad space. If they see that I love to go sit at Starbucks and sit on my computer and work, they want to sell me Starbucks ads or coffee ads. That's how they make money. And if they don't know anything about you, if they're not tracking you, then they don't have the information to sell ads to people that want to sell you advertisements and sell you products and services. And that is the basis of why they do what they do. Are they doing it nefariously to try to do something bad to you? Probably not. There's always bad apples. But they are using your information illegally without your permission to sell advertisements. You are just a customer to them, and that's how they make money. And so that's what these lawsuits are all about. But good on this guy, Mr. Paxton, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, for suing both of them, for suing both the companies and getting $2.8 billion out of them for his state, at least. Unfortunately, it doesn't go to the consumer. It should. They should start breaking this up and start paying everybody. But this is what it is. We're just a little guy, right? What do you think of this? Do you think, why do we continue to allow this? Why do we continue using these devices even though we know they're invading our privacy? Let me know what you think that answer is down in the comment section below. And as always, appreciate you being here. Check out that podcast. Episode 1, 2, and 3 are up live on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Android, iHeart. I'll put all the links below. And also episode 4 will be up by tomorrow, which will be June 4th, 2025. We'll try to get a 5th episode up by next week. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.